All right, so we're going to talk about glass. All right, so how many of you have not used Google Glass? Like everybody does not use Google Glass. Well, I got a big desk here, so I'm going to have to pace in like 2 square feet. It's going to be interesting. So, you know, the funny thing about having a Google Glass is, I'll be walking down the street and there's somebody staring at me. I'm looking at my ass, my glass. It's common. Let's see. All right. No, it is an interesting piece, and I've had Prime Minister of Poland, where it's former Governor Ritter. You know, you just run into people and they're like, hey, you know, like I'm literally just walking through a door somewhere, and you know, it's governor behind me. Hey, what is that on your head? So on an elevator ride up, I get to have them experience Google Glass. Now, I'll get to where glass is going in just a little bit, but first let's talk about a little bit more about what Google Glass is. Now, Google Glass, originally I got it back in 2013 because I signed up at 2012, and you know, I kind of wore it religiously, and everybody's like, oh wow, you're one of those glass owners, right? Glass owner. Are you looking at my glass? But yeah, all right, so Google Glass is interesting to a lot of people, and there is a bit of etiquette, and I'll get to the etiquette part as well, but it doesn't make somebody an asshole or a glasshole or a general jerk for wearing Google Glass. They're off most of the time. You actually can see it when they're off. So if I can tap on it, let's see. Oh, wake it up. Is it on? Or I think I may have shut it off. All right. Anyhow, when it's on, you can actually see the screen. Let's first talk about what it's not. All right, so Google Glass is not one of these big headsets that is made by Motorola that you see them with big screens and gadgets. It's not a VR kind of tool. It's not an Oculus Rift or a Halo. It literally is just an extension of your phone. And I say it's an extension of your phone because, well, it in itself is not a phone. It might be an Android device, but it doesn't have a cellular radio in it. So it doesn't do that. It also doesn't have a GPS. It piggybacks off of your phone's GPS. So it's not a phone, and it's not a GPS. But similar to the watches that we have in Android Wear, it's one of those tools that you can use in combination with your phone. And of course, just like Wear, there's a bunch of apps that are built specifically for glass. So you have to think in context of glass. There is a screen where I can see everything that's happening with glass, and I have a touchpad here on the side that I can interact with it. But it's literally like a touchpad, so it gets general directions. I would not be able to like draw it like you could draw on your watch. But there are lots of apps. There's fitness apps. There's languages apps. This was great. I did a tour through Europe with Google Glass, and I'm a typical American. I speak one language, and I can partially read 2 or 3 others. But when you're going through the airports and the hotels, and like I was going to the bathroom in Germany, and I went there, and it was just words, no pictures, and it wasn't hair or foul. You know, it's like if you think about it, we go to a restaurant here, and it could be cowboy, cowgirl, guys, girls, gals, I don't know, she, he. I mean, you can use a number of different words. But each of these words have about 15 characters in it, and I guessed wrong. But now I have an app that actually will read and translate that language to English, which is nice. But on that note of going to the restroom, we can talk a little bit about the etiquette class. I am now also in the cannabis business, and I deal with a lot of people that are a little bit paranoid. I'm in the there are guys standing at urinals, there are people using the restroom, there's that dude over there fixing his hair, guy brushing his teeth. They don't really need a camera on them. And people are already paranoid enough as it is. They don't like their picture taken. You just respect them, right? And I've had once somebody asked me to remove glass, and I was like, yeah, no worries, just put it up right on the top of my head. Not a big deal. That's just because they didn't really know about glass. They don't know that it's off by default. And when it is on, you can totally see it. Now, it is an Android app. And it's 4.4, API 19, little breakdown of what it's actually made of. So we started to break it down, the screen resolution, because it's not based on pixels, it's actually a little projector, and it uses a prism, right? So it projects against a mirror and comes back across the prism, so that's how you see the screen. And it's a really detailed resolution, 5 megapixel camera with 720p video. We have a touchpad and a logic board, the speaker, and the battery sits on the back. It's actually lightweight, very balanced. So you can see that, you know, the weight is on the fulcrum of your ear, so it's not on your nose, right? That's one thing about glasses that you'll notice. If you have thick lenses, you know, it starts to really dig into your nose, right? So that's an uncomfortable part that they avoided. They put the weight back on your ears. Because our ears can actually hold a lot of weight. Look at your earrings. You don't have big ones. I don't know, something with a big honking. Anything else? All right, so it has a TI processor. It's like a 1.2 gigahertz. What do I have in my notes? Yeah, it's 1.2 gigahertz ARM processor in it. All right, so for the geeks here. Of course, it has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and some RAM, 16 gigs of storage, 1 gig of RAM, and that's what it looks like. You can't see that here in my head. All right. So the very first question everybody asks, not that I'm a glass hole, but I'll play one for now. How do you like them? All right, so this is a pretty ambiguous question. The first thing is, I live in Colorado, so I'm wearing sunglasses all the time because it's sunny 300 plus days a year, right? So I wear sunglasses all the time. I absolutely love mountain biking with them. I wear them skiing, but they don't fit under my helmet very well. But I have worn them skiing. There's something about having your device just kind of hidden somewhere and not have to do anything, but you can still communicate, right? So I can still get a text message, and all I have to do is I hear it because there's a speaker. That's a phone amplification speaker that sits in the master process that does the auditory sound, kind of like a cochlear ear implant. Sits on your bone and amplifies the sound through your skull. But you know, I just glance up the screen, and it has a light sensor that detects the light change, and then it'll show me that text message. So if I'm driving, and if I want to look, I could look. But if I'm driving and I don't want to look, don't look, and it never comes up. Directions while you're driving, also another awesome feature. So I do like them. I still wear them all the time, and I wear them as sunglasses most of the time. I don't wear them when I'm sitting at my computer. I have freaking internet on my computer. What do I need a glass on when I'm working at my computer? But everywhere else I will wear it. What if you wear glasses, right? So they have different frames that can accommodate prescriptions. So you're fine if you wear glasses. What if you're left eye dominant? Well, wear a patch, right? No, they only release the right eye dominant because the majority of the general population and a vast majority of us are right eye dominant. If you are left eye dominant, literally cover your left eye, and then your right eye will all of a sudden magically take over. Our human bodies are kind of miraculous from that standpoint. And then people ask, when are they coming out? And that kind of leads into where it's going. And you might get that question, so I'll get to that in a minute. And then how much will they cost? The real question is, what are they going to do? But I'll get to that in just a minute. Because as you know, Google moved or what's next for them. I'll cover that in just a minute. All right, so if I have a phone, why would I have glass? Again, it is an extension to your phone, but how many of you in here have cracked screens? Right? Yeah, getting a cracked or have ever cracked a screen. Then all the hands are going up, right? Yeah, so cracking a screen is a common thing. When do we do that? Typically when we're going to pull it out of our pocket, that's when, oh, and anybody drop it in the toilet? Anybody, a couple? You raised your hands?
They picked it up in the other hand.
Never dropped one in the toilet myself, but my wife dropped her iPhone in the toilet, and well, I say it was an appropriate place. So the phone stays in your pocket, so you can use glass. Your phone stays in your pocket, and you keep it. Also, you'll notice when you go out, you'll see a couple, cute couples sitting there having dinner, both of them looking at their phones like this. Nice. I bet you they're like texting each other too, right? Sending pictures. Oh, you should see the guy behind you. Kind of thing. Yeah, so be with the people you're with, because glass is there when you need it. If I get a text message and I want to read it, I'm not going to interrupt the conversation and do this. I can quickly just kind of glance up and then I'm right back with whoever it is I'm talking to. Whenever I want directions, I just say, okay, class, get directions to, and then I get directions to where I'm trying to get to. And it gives me all of that data very easily. Everything is hands-free. And I don't know about you, but I don't wear watches anymore. As soon as we had phones, big freaking clocks on, computers in our pockets, you're like, all right, so how many time devices do I need to carry around with me, right? And then as a developer, your hands are always on a keyboard and resting on some table and the watch like digging into you. And you're like constantly adjusting it all day. And I could probably count the number of people wearing watches here on 2 hands, maybe. Not many of us. There's only a handful of us, right? So hands-free is still big and will continue to be big. That being said, I do have a couple of watches, Google watches, Samsung, still wearing glasses, it's sunglasses. All right, so how do you build a glassware or an app? All right, so standard Android development, they have 2 ways to do it. They have through a mirror API, so through a cloud service, you can build a mirror web-based version, and then also through the GDG, you'll build your glassware. So whenever you build out a string, you can build it out using the mirror API. It's just HTML syntax or tag-based syntax that gets sent over to Glass. Glass will then show a representation of that on the screen, and it goes through Google's cloud in order to do that. So they authenticate that service through the cloud with a subscribing device. So you can't just walk around all of a sudden somebody's sending something to your Glass that you didn't ask for. And of course, one of the very first apps that came out that used the mirror API was called Tits and Glass. Leave it to the adult industry to, right? It didn't last very long. They quickly moved it off of the available list of apps. I tried to download and install it, but it was dead, so I uninstalled it. All right, so the concept of Glass is based on cards. So we have a home screen card which is showing you the time. So by default, you will see the time whenever it turns on. And then to your right will be all of the things that have happened in the past. Text messages, phone calls, emails, information that you've subscribed to will happen in the past. Everything to the left will be your present and future items. So current stock market, current weather, traffic going home, what your calendar looks like. So I can scroll through that using the touchpad. I can swipe forward and backward to move between these different cards. cards. And then when you get to a card that you want to interact with, you just tap and then it'll give you options. And it uses a little little bar across the bottom, kind of like Pong. Anybody remember playing Pong where you move the bar back and forth across the, yeah, there's a couple of us old guys in here. All right, so Pong, you just move that bar, you just use the touchpad to do that. Now that's the mirror API. So that's one way to do it. The other is building with the GDG. It's built in. There is a class development kit inside there that allows you to build just like normal apps that you would install on your device. So I build it using SDK with some add-ons. Some of the things like the accelerometer, the GPS, it is the exact same thing. So if you're familiar with Android development, you just move right into it. Not a problem. The concept of cards are the only thing that's a little bit different. Now, what do you build with Glass? There are people building fitness apps, so like this Ghost Runner. So imagine wearing Glass and you're running along. You're running against yourself, right? The last time you ran and your metrics there, and you start to see that runner pass you, or you start to fall behind that runner because you're not running as fast as your normal pace, right? And you can also see your speed, stuff like that. You might be able to add in the map where you're going when you're running. But for me, it takes somebody with a knife to get me to run. I hate running. I'm more apt to do curls, like 60-ounce curls. I like doing those. Fitness is big, so there's several different fitness apps, but Strava has a few of them for biking and running and so on and so forth. Also, some really useful apps. As I mentioned, the translation one. I was skiing in France, and you run across this sign, and you're like, well, what does that mean? Well, we might get that means danger. I know a little bit of French, as I mentioned, American, but I know a little French, a little Spanish, a little German. Enough to get a beer in any country I go to. But the apps are out there. There's lots of cool ideas, and there's still people developing them because Glass will come again. Let's see. It's hard to read this when it's washed out, and it's washed out on this screen too. But all right, so this is the cloud is forever. Our desktops were last year. The phones are last month. But these devices, Glass, watches, the IoT, all of that is the now. So everything that you should be looking at should be focused on the now. So look at where things are going and jump quickly, which is why I'm in the cannabis industry now also, because, well, I knew software and I knew mobile apps, and there's this brand new industry that everybody didn't have to be educated on because everybody knows about it. So why wouldn't you jump into it? But Glass is really about fitting in. You want to make sure that when you build a Glass app that you're not getting in the way. People are not going to sit there and play games and watch videos on Glass. Glass is more of a casual thing where you just kind of give them the information as they need it. They're not going to, you could watch YouTube on it, but wow, it's like, how long are you going to sit and watch? You could watch a whole movie on this little screen. I mean, I have a hard time watching it on a phone. Just your hand gets tired, you cover the speaker, and then the cupping around the speaker. Keep it relevant. So whenever you build a Glass app, you also want to try and because you have information about where the user is, you have some kind of context. So just like with Google Now, as it picks up, hey, you're at the grocery store, you get that list. You can build that kind of stuff into your Glass app as well. And you also want to avoid the unexpected, right? Don't do something that's like, what the hell were you thinking? There's no clear in context. But we also want to make make sure that you're building to connect with people, right? So sharing those moments. The thing about glass is I can walk around, my hands free, carrying my soda, my chips, whatever. Walk around and you see something, you're like, oh, wow, that's cool. Okay, glass, take a picture. But there's also a little camera button. So it's just like, oh, wow. You know, so as I was traveling around Europe, I was taking pictures all over the place, just with glass, because, well, I never had to pull my phone out. I was just able to walk around and say, oh, that's cool. And quickly, you know, how many times you've caught your friends doing something stupid and you're able to get a picture of it? How many more times would you catch them doing something stupid to get a picture of it if you always had the camera out ready to go? Well, that's kind of the danger of this our society now also, because most of us growing up, we didn't have this problem. Now everybody has like a high resolution camera in their pocket. So the next few presidents are going to have some explaining to do. I'm just saying. All right. So additional powers of glass. I mean, things like Hangouts, doing a first-person point of view with somebody in Hangouts. So I'm skiing and I hang out with somebody. They're seeing me skiing or mountain biking. That's kind of cool. Lots of photos and video. Phone calls. You do the phone calls. It has the microphone and speaker, but it also has a little earbud that will jump in there to help you hear your SMS, your search, all of those things. Those are all really nice. But what if you were able to, as you capture a picture, make additional annotations to it? You know, so like a vignette is what it's called, when you take a picture, but it's at this location. So it adds a little bit of information about that location right to the picture. And then you're able to share that immediately to your social network. Right? So I was there here at the kitchen table down here at River Green. It's this one place where they go and they have chefs there, and the chefs teach you how to cook your dinner, and you pay for that. Like, awesome. Translation, I mentioned that. Also, I was lucky enough to, here's the translation I actually did. I spoke at a conference in Saint-Etienne about Google Glass. That's in France. And, you know, just doing simple translations. It's not perfect, but, and French will always critique any French you have to use. Even if you say bonjour, they're going to say, you do not say it right. All right, directions, right? So I was at Android DevCon in Holland yesterday, getting from the airport to where I needed to go, writing glass, just like on your phone, but in glass. I was able to use that the entire time on the train going over there. So the last thing to keep in mind is that whenever you have a camera out, people just do stupid shit. You've seen it. It's like your friends, normal friends, and then somebody has a camcorder, like taking a video, and all of a sudden you're like, lost your mind. Yeah, people do that with glass as well. Oh, you know, they're like looking all up in your face and violating your personal space. You're like, oh, come on. I don't care how pretty you are, but anyhow, weird things do happen, but you can deal with that. It's not that bad. So what's next for glass? So as I mentioned, it has graduated from the Google X, Project X group. All right, so that Project X group is the group that does experiments, right? So this started as a, hey, what if? And there's a YouTube video of one of the engineers. They said when they first came up with glass, how long did it take you to create the first prototype? Right? And it was like 24 hours. You're like, really? And they started off with, okay, what if we took some of the film that you use for an overhead projector and you got a hanger. You got a hanger, right? We took a hanger and we got a little metal rod coming back, holding that thing back over here, and took one of those little Pico projectors. You know, because they had one of those. They're like, all right, so we take a Pico projector, a hanger, and some cellophane film, whatever, and then, okay, all right, now bare minimum. And then how did they get the interaction down? Well, they started off with, and that was even less than their first time just getting the projector thing working. And, you know, it was like a few hours they came up with something. They started off with some strings, with some pipe, you know, and they started doing the minority report kind of thing. But then they realized that if somebody was down there saying, oh yeah, hold on a second, all right, yeah, just checking my email, you know, it's a little weird for the other person. No matter how comfortable you are with it, the other person is like, dude, what are you, crazy? So yeah, the guy who created Nest, Google then bought, his name is Tony Fidel. He's now running the group that does this. So they have under a nice kind of guy. And then they have Ivy Ross, who's a marketing design, fashion kind of person that is now running the glass project. What they're actually going to do, if they're actually going to produce a product, I don't know. They'll end up licensing it out to somebody. But like most things, Google doesn't make a lot of hardware products, right? They leave that to the hardware manufacturers. But in this instance, they made an exception because nobody else was going down that road. All right, so that's kind of where they're going. I think that's about it. And I'll make sure that anybody who'd like to try class, you're more than welcome to. I'll get it powered up and everything. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. 16 ounce person. Yes.
So, do people seem enthusiastic about it?
I see this, and I don't know their personal feelings, but you also see Microsoft Halo, you see Oculus Rift, and there's several other glass manufacturers. I don't think the concept is perfected yet. I still think we're still in the first generations of wearable technology. That's what we're going to get there. If this were to look more and more like a pair of glasses and it starts to really fit in, I mean, it took a long time, many hundreds of years for people to get used to glasses. Right? Are we yet used to somebody having a Bluetooth headset in your ear? No, I still look at Bluetooth. You're talking to me, you're not talking to anybody else, and you have that thing sticking out of your ear. Like, what? So the more it looks like something that is very commonplace to us, I think the more it will be accepted. So that's where the concept of a watch actually makes sense to me. You know, because it's something that most people are very familiar with. So it's nothing new to them to have a watch. I just choose not to wear a watch. Glasses, a lot of people still wear glasses. So it makes sense that a glass would be a good alternative. Yes, yeah, the device itself is made of titanium. It's very flexible. You know, when kids run around with it, you're not going to break it. But in between the nose piece, little glass lenses will clip right in. But if you have prescriptions, this whole rim will come off, and it'll have a set of full frame or a couple of different designs of different types of frames. Any kind of lenses, you know, as long as they can fit the curve, and they don't have a strong curve to them. So yeah, you need bifocals, trifocals, multifocals. Yeah, it is. Yes, sir.
Why is the price so high? Is there like anything going to glass that's so expensive?
So when they work for sale, they work $1,500. I, as a software guy, was able to get somebody to pay me to build something, so I can pay for it and buy somebody else, so it's possible. But no, I think it was partly to just recoup some of their development costs, because they had a number of people working on it for quite some time, not just on the hardware side, but on the software side as well. Yeah, well, it depends on the type of development you're doing, but yeah, you could build an ADT for it, so it's not a big deal. Same concept.
But you don't want to
Well, no, the Android, standard Android debugging and everything that all worked. You just, you had to, they didn't have like a pre-built virtual device for it, so you had to build your own. So I had to build that ADE myself. And then a few people started publishing them out, saying, oh, here's a better one, and has more of these settings set. But the basic screen flow was all, we were able to do that, but still, nothing beats putting it on a device and testing it. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I don't know if you mentioned it. What's your battery life like?
The battery life tends to be all day. Then again, I don't use it for a lot of phone calls. I used to use it for a lot of phone calls, and the battery is still all day. But nowadays, it was the speaker, in my opinion, or not the speaker, but the microphone is not fine-tuned enough to give the caller a better experience. So I don't use it that matter at all. If it had a better microphone with some of the acoustic echo cancellation kind of stuff, the noise reduction, that kind of stuff, that would be more acceptable, but it doesn't. Yes, sir.
Speaking about the microphone, is there any like capability of like extending that to hook up with like a better one? So like say you're having like a first person experience with something really loud, right? It's gonna overwhelm that mic. Is there any way to like say capture audio differently, not using like a built-in mic?
Yeah, so tapping into the system is not that hard. A few people actually have done that. Adding on eye tracking devices so they could actually extend glass by tapping into it. And they add another extension to the camera looking back at your eyes to watch pupil movement and pupil dilation. So adding something else for the speaker would not be too difficult. We did have conversations with Cochlear America, which is down in Greenwood Village, down in the tech center, about building something that they could market as a hearing enhancement. So it would allow them to turn on the microphone and then it would just repeat louder to them through the speaker. That didn't come to fruition, but people were thinking about those ideas of tapping in and making it a little better. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. You're more than welcome to try out class. If it's good enough for the Prime Minister of Poland, it's